Most people were not supportive, again, and they're probably projecting their fears onto you and the things that they think are logical for people to do. I basically went there on faith from God because I believe that's what He wanted me to do.
Doom da 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 doom da 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 doom da 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 doom. From somewhere around the world, welcome to the Black Women Travel Podcast. Hi, my name is Wanda Duncan, and I'm so glad you're joining me as we explore the paths of Black women who've made travel a large part of their lives. Welcome to the show. Doom da 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 doom da 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 do do da 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 doom. Hey loves, it's Wanda, the host of the Black Women Travel Podcast. I'd like to invite you to become a patron of the Black Women Travel Podcast. There are a few budget-friendly tiers you can choose from so that as a community, we can continue to heal, ask for what we deserve, get it, and inspire the next generation. Tap the link in the show notes and choose a monthly contribution that suits you. I'm so excited about the episodes you'll hear that will nudge you to love yourself deeper and take more action in your life from that empowered place. Please consider becoming a monthly subscriber through patreon.com/BWTpod. Get ready to hear another great episode. So thank you so much for joining us today. Can you please tell us your name, where you're from, your current location, and the name of your business?
Hi, this is Taiwanda Bason. I am from Mobile, Alabama in the USA, and my business is named after me, Taiwanda Bason, and I also coined myself as the border breaking specialist. I'm currently located in Da Nang, Vietnam.
Beautiful. So I was looking into your background, Taiwanda. It seems like right off the bat you had some resistance when it came to your desire to travel. You said that you didn't have any support and that moving away from home, even to another state, people were projecting their fears on you. So what was it like? How did you affirm yourself to be able to do the thing you wanted to do?
Basically, it came after experience of previously doing the things that I wanted to. And I will say, by and large, the majority of people were not supportive, but I did have some support. For instance, my one of my grandmothers, she has always been supportive of everything that I wanted to do. So she was one, and then like a couple other people, but she has been a big supporter throughout my travels and again like other things throughout life, and basically because I had the experience before moving abroad of things that I wanted to do in while in the States, whether it was related to going to graduate school or undergrad as well, which I went away from home. It was about 5.5 hours away from home, which more people would have preferred me to be in my hometown because of the experience over the years. And then graduate school, I moved even further away. And again, like other things that I did that people necessarily didn't agree with, I was well prepared for the decision to move abroad. It was actually like a dream of mine that I had after high school. I said I wanted to travel the world, so it was something that was always with me. And when the time came to do it, I actually kind of forgot about it because I had stopped teaching in the US and I was finishing my master's program. And it was actually two of my classmates in my master's program who brought it back to my mind. They said, "Hey, why don't you teach English abroad?" And I was like, you know what? I can. And so at that time, there was no one that was going to be able to change my mind. So again, like because of the experience before of not having as many supporters and me going to do what it is that I want to do, it wasn't really a question of whether people or a majority of people supported me or not. So I'm just kind of able to do things without people supporting. But I noticed like and I would say maybe for me, I'm not sure about for other people, but I think as you decide to do the things that you want to and you're true to you, you're happy about those things. Other people, even though they may not agree, because I know a lot of people, again, like you said, they're actually fearful and they project their fears onto you, is that over time, after they see that you are that you're doing well, and that you are actually enjoying your life, while most of the time they're not, sometimes they actually change their thoughts and their feelings about things. So that's something that's still with me today as I decide to do different things. Like in the beginning, people may still be like, I don't know. But over the years, they also begin to change. And there have been some people who've done some of the same things I did who in the beginning were not supportive. So that's kind of how I deal with that.
What gave you the courage or the drive to not listen to those people? What made you believe in yourself and your dream so much that you didn't need that support?
Probably I'm pretty sure my faith in God has a lot to do with it. Since I was like a little girl, like I just kind of been different from most people, even when it came to studying. I remember whatever I had to do, and even if the teacher didn't say study, I was always reading, learning. Actually, before I started school, I was doing those things, and I taught myself to do like a lot of things. Nobody had to tell me anything, but at the same time, sometimes like my mom would be like, "Oh, baby, go to sleep," and things like that. And this is when I was like really young, but I would just whenever I had something to do, I wanted to put my best into it, and I wanted to achieve that goal. So I wouldn't stop until I finished it. So I think again, like my belief in God as it progressed or developed like over time as well. Like I've seen from experience, although people may not agree with the things that you're doing. Again, like you mentioned, projecting their fear on you. A lot of people in the world are fearful, and I found that out through traveling as well. But as I did things that other people may not have been so sure about, and there were times like as an adult, again, like as an adult, things kind of change because then you may start listening to people more when they project their fears. But after I realized, oh, this is why they said that because of their fear, I learned not to listen to other people, because after I reviewed like decisions I may have made based on what other people said, and many times it's based on their fears, and I didn't like the result, then I was able to see back in retrospect why they said what they were saying. It was either for some particular motive, or again like the fear, like people want you. People want your time, or there are things that people want to accomplish, and so therefore sometimes they need you to do certain things in order to accomplish it. Or sometimes people are trying to give what they think is well-meaning advice, but it's not really, because again it's based on, like you said, when they put their projection of fear on you, that's kind of where it's coming from. So I learned no matter what decision I make, even when I make decisions based off of um, what other people said, and it wasn't like the outcome wasn't so favorable. Over time I learned, well, it doesn't matter if I make the decision based on what somebody else says or what I want to do, because in the end I have to own my decision. So I can't go back and say, well, I did this because of you. So I learned to own my decisions. Therefore, when I make when I make my decisions, even if I take into account what someone else says, I learn to own that, so I don't go back and say, well, because of so and so, this is why I'm here. Because I know that when I make the decision, it's me making decision, and maybe they were telling me something based on their limited knowledge, their experiences or things like that. So I think that's where I get the strength again from my experience, past decisions, and then just going after what it is that I wanted to, because I see most the majority of the time, and I can't think of everything over my life, but the majority of the time when I did what it is that I wanted to do, I see some successful things that happened, although the majority of people were doubtful. For instance, when I started teaching in the U.S., when it was time for, well, I should say having my own classroom, because I was substitute teaching before, and did some other things in education. But when I decided to make that leap into actually like teaching, and I decided to move to another state. And again, like the majority of people didn't really support that. Some people had some jokes. And when I got there, not knowing that, and actually the place where I ended up working, kind of didn't want to work there because I didn't start as a teacher to begin with, and that's what I went with my mindset on. Okay, I'm going to be a teacher in my own classroom, but they wanted me to be an assistant, so I was hoping that I wouldn't get chosen actually, but I knew I would. As you know, I believe God was the one who wanted me to go and do this to start teaching. Now the thing was, like, although I didn't want to work at this place and I want to work somewhere else, starting off as a teacher, which I had the opportunity to somewhat, but God worked it out. I knew that I was supposed to work at that school, and they were the first one called. I started as an assistant, and within it started in January, and so at the end of the school year, I decided to work summer school, and then I got a call back saying, "Hey, we have some spots open for teachers, and we want you to come back as a teacher for the school term." So it's like literally, I just worked for about like 6 or 7 months, and I got a promotion to being a teacher, head of my classroom. And not only that, even though that wasn't a place I necessarily want to work at, um, it was, yes, I really didn't. Cause I wanted to start, I thought, as a teacher of my own classroom, but something happened, and it was tough. It was because of the environment that we're working in for students who have behavioral and emotional difficulties. And some of the stories I would tell people of what happened, they didn't want to believe it. They thought you were making it up. They couldn't fathom like things like that happening at a school like almost every day. And after, I think it was in the second year, after the first year, I got my first full year in. And again, like I said, when I was little, I always put my all into things. So sometimes I would stay late to like 9 or 10, and somebody would pull me aside and say, "Hey, Miss Bason, the work will never be done. Don't stay here that long. Take it home with you." I would still work on it, at home, but I want to put my all into it, into helping my students. And so the next year, starting my second year of teaching of my whole our own classroom, and that one was like a super tough year as well. But I will say that first year, all the things were very tough. I prayed like just about every day, and I learned like more about myself and my faith as well, which that definitely helped me to get through. And again, I had people telling me, "Hey, why are you doing that? You don't need to be there. You could be making more money. And why are you putting yourself in that position?" Because of the environment. But I stayed. I truly want to help the kids. So in the next year, it seemed to get tougher at a point. And I remember one day it was so tough because again I pray a lot, and I really wanted my students to succeed. And there was this one week where I was really praying. These kids, some of them were still dealing with some of the things that they went through, had, lots of things happen to them in their backgrounds, and stuff still going on as they're coming to school and supposed to be learning. That particular week, it was just, it was wild. Okay. And the level of like the kids that I had in my classroom, it was really high. I was actually over, I think, over the limit for the number of students for my class. And then I had A's or people that came in to help my students, which the people on the outside look like, why does she have all those people? But it's because they were needed. Like some, like they weren't an assistant. They were helping the student just because she was, hard of hearing, like this. But I remember one day with one particular student, he was so angry. He wasn't the only one through the whole week, but he was so angry and, something happened. He had to go out, and usually we have to go and assist with our students if they have behavior issues. So he had gone out of the building. My supervisor went. I felt like I need to go, and seemed like he was gonna become like physically violent. And I remember I stepped between them because I was like, okay, this is my fault. I don't want her to get hurt. And then all of a sudden, when he lunged, scratched me, and it was like a little scratch, but it hurt so much. I don't know. I don't know why. It was a little scratch, but it hurt like I don't know what. And my supervisor told me to go in. And I remember when I went in, because I had really been praying for my kids, and it didn't seem like there were results from it, like it was helping them, and I knew what kind of pain and things that they were in. When I went inside, I didn't go back to my classroom. I actually went to a little room in the building, and I went there. It was dark. And I went there and I was thinking about it. So it's like, oh my goodness, this seems like what I'm doing, I'm not helping them. And so in that moment, I had made up in my mind that I was actually going to quit. It's like I'm gonna turn in my keys because I'm not effective. I'm not able to help these kids. And I was actually in there. I started to cry because again, like I know like the pain that they're in and what I was trying to help them, but it didn't seem like it was working. And my supervisor came in to talk to me because I guess she didn't find me in the room, and she, let me know when you are at leave work at work. She said, these kids, she said, we can try, but don't take that as a reflection on us because they have so many other things that they're dealing with. And so after she talked to me, I did go back to the classroom. But my partner, I think she kind of knew and just told me, to go to the office. And after the kids, she said that she would take care of the kids, and I went to my office in the room. And then when it was after the kids had left and it was time for us to go home, when I came out, she told me, she said, Miss Bason, she said, God put your tears in a bottle, like from one of the verses in the Bible. And so I still felt defeated. It's like I haven't been able to help, or so I thought. I hadn't been able to help the kids. So I think it was a day or two later when I came back at school, and my partner was good. She was like, for the next day or two, she was like, I'll take care of the kids at the end of the day, and you just go to the office. And so I was in the office. This was like right after this happened, and it was again, like I said, a difficult week, and I had totally forgot about something that had been going on, and I never would have thought this for myself. But I was in the office, and all of a sudden I heard a commotion in our classroom, and the kids, is like they were screaming, and I heard stuff moving. I was like, what's going on? Thinking that something had gone awry. One of the kids were acting out, and I went out, and they were all cheering. It's like, yay, Miss Bason, yay. And I was like, what are you doing? What are you talking about? Because I was just, in there like, okay, just thinking. And it turns out they had made an announcement. Again, what I had totally forgotten about for that week, because I was so focused on helping the kids, was that we had voting for Teacher of the Year. There's no way in my mind when I voted did I ever think that it would be me. And I voted for someone else because there were teachers, veteran teachers that have been there, 10, 20 years, or, could have been less, but some of them had never, ever been voted Teacher of the Year at that particular school. And so it turns out that that's what had happened. so they had voted me teacher of the year, and this was my peers again, those who had been teaching, of course, like way longer than me, even if it was like a couple years more, because this was only starting my second year. And so I was just like totally surprised, especially after that week, because I had thought about just a day or two before, I thought I was a failure. And I was like, I'm going to turn in my keys because I haven't been able to help these kids. And I think again, like experiences that I've had, and something that someone else pointed out to me. One of the custodians at the school, he came in like one day to talk to me. Like after, he said, "You know what, Miss Bason?" He said, "I knew when you first came to the school, and this was when I was an assistant." He said, "I told." Or he told the head custodian. He said she's gonna be teacher of the year in 2 years. And when he shared that with me, I was like, what? I couldn't believe that someone, I'm just coming in, that he kind of predicted that to her, was like, I'm going to be teacher of the year in 2 years. But he told me, he said, you know what? He said it even surprised me because he was saying he told her in 2 years, and this is when I first came to the school and I was just working as an assistant. Because he told me, he said, it's actually been less than 2 years because I haven't made like 2 full years of having my own classroom. And I was like, wow, that sunk in too. But seeing, because they also let me see notes that my peers had written, like when they voted for who they want to be teacher of the year, to some of the things that they had said. And again, some of them were veterans. And I was like, wow, that they thought those things are that much about me and like what I had been doing with the kids. So again, it's kind of like the experience of the things that I've done before I had gone to that state. Again, like you mentioned, there were more people against me going, and they had some funny things to say. Somebody was like, "Hey, don't let me find you on the street like playing, like panhandling, playing playing a guitar for money." So I had people to say all kinds of things. Yes. Again, most people were not supportive. Again, and they're probably projecting their fears onto you and the things that they think are logical for people to do. I basically went there on faith from God because I believe that's what He wanted me to do. And like I told you, the school wasn't even the school that I wanted to. I want to go at. I want to start off a teacher of my own classroom, but it's like God had His own plan in mind. I knew at the interview when I went to that particular school, although I had, I think, like four different interviews, that's the one. It was going to be the one, and I was just hoping, like, please let one of the others like call me back. Even one of the schools I want to work at, where I could have been a head teacher, where the vice principal, when he called me back, there were, I think, like 4 or 5 people that he had called back for the interview for that school. And he spoke to me specifically before we had the interviews. He said, I want you to know, he said, I'm gonna call back, like he said, the 4 or 5 people. And he said, you were one of them. He said, you want to know why I called you back? And, for the interview. And I was like, yeah. He said, out of all the people that applied for that particular job at that time, they were only accepting online applications, and making more things like online accessible, so they weren't accepting paper applications anymore. And I had done that for several schools, but hadn't heard much back. But one day something came to me, and I'm pretty sure it was God let me know. I don't know, remember what information it was, but it talked about cover letters. So I decided to send in cover letters to some of the schools that I had applied to. And he told me, he said, the reason why he called me back was the day before he was calling people in for the interview, or going to call people in for the interviews. He said he received my cover letter. It was on top of the fax machine. And he said out of all the 600 people, and he said 600 people had applied for that one position, he said I was the only one that sent in a cover letter. And that's what intrigued him about me, why he called me back for the interview with those particular people. But that wasn't one of the ones. I didn't get that position. I thought that I would. It was the other school, which I knew I would get. But the thing was, when I thought about it, I said, well, if I had been at the other school, because they ended up getting someone who was more experienced, working with kids and working in education at the other school. But by me going to the other school starting as an assistant, I probably would have may not have had the same success. So I believe God knew where He wanted me, and He put me there. And it was very tough. And people were like, "Why? Why are you here?" Not knowing that in less than 2 years, from an assistant to teacher, that I was going to be voted Teacher of the Year at that particular school.
And this
So
this was in Atlanta, wasn't it? In DeKalb County?
yes,
That is like so fierce to be. It's like a trial by fire. That's what they
yes,
call it. To feeling like you weren't
yes.
being impactful. It seems like you value very much fulfillment. Like that is something that you really desire to have, and the things that you apply yourself towards. So it's hard to measure an impact on someone's life.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, you don't know what those kids are dealing with when they go home. I mean, you sometimes have an idea,
Hmm.
but coming to school and being supported and newly supported at that is totally different from having support all the way around, you know?
Hmm.
But that's really gorgeous that you could have made that presence in their life. So,
Hmm.
so going from that school, from the state of Georgia, you went to the country of Georgia.
Oh, no, no, no. The first country was Korea.
Oh, okay. And then you just haven't stopped traveling since then, it seems like.
I had some brief periods because usually I go home to like visit. I would say the longest was the last time that I went, and that's when I decided I didn't want to be in the classroom anymore. So I decided to go back to the USA for a job, to try something different, and I actually stayed there for about 2 years and 3 months, and then decided to start traveling again last year.
And how has that been? So this coming December, it's going to be 10 years that you've been traveling and working and figuring out what works for you and how you want to express your talents.
Yes. You said, how has it been?
Yes, so it's coming up on 10 years. Like, it seems like you've been reflecting a little bit on your whole experience.
Yes. It's been awesome. I'm so thankful to God. Like, as I look back on things that happen again, you see things in retrospect. And when I mentioned before about like when that week in the school where I thought that I was a failure and I was going to turn in my keys because I didn't feel like I had helped the students. It turns out that's what I was thinking because of what happened, that particular day, and I wasn't seeing what I want to see. So, but sometimes it's not all about what we see. And before us, because I realized after that from my students and then others that were with them, and the reason why my peers have voted me teacher of the years, because they were able to see something different where I was focused on, okay, look, the child acted out that day, scratched me, the behavior hadn't changed because I didn't see the outward thing. But like you said, you don't know what they're going through or what's going on inside of them, and then able to see like the changes and that are taking place in them until they tell you. And so I had them to tell me, and people on the outside, even other students that tell me, and the teachers that tell me how I had, impacted others' life, whether it was hair, some things I didn't even try to do, but not even realizing by me making that decision, which kind of goes back when I said when we do what it is that we want to do, why I do the things that I want to, and I don't, if I make a choice, influenced by someone else, whatever it is, I learned to own my decision because by me just being natural, I'm thinking to myself, I want to be natural. I didn't care who didn't like it. Even my mom didn't like it. First, it took some years before my mom accepted my natural hair. because most people are, boxed in by, what other people think and society. And a lot of times they uphold what society says, not thinking that, hey, if you change, then these things will change too. But by me just being natural as a teacher there, I didn't know until someone told me. They said, the student from this class, this girl here, she, said that she admired me and looked up to me so much because she loved my afro and me wearing my natural hair, and it made her feel proud of herself. And not only that, the boys in my class, again, that week, I didn't think, or on the outward side, you don't see what's going on, but they had talked to other staff. And one of the staff told me that, the boys in my class, they also talked about my hair. Like when they saw me wearing my natural hair, it made them feel good about their natural hair that I was just wearing it. And again, I was just thinking to myself, you know what? I don't want any perms anymore. So I'm going to wear my hair. And so the same thing about the traveling. I've done the things that I wanted to do, gone to the places where I wanted to. And as I mentioned, a lot of people weren't supportive, but I've seen some of my staff, not my staff, but my colleagues previously who were against or didn't think that it was so safe to travel. Some of them have even gone abroad, and some of them have changed their mindsets about being abroad because they were able to see when I did what I did. Now they were able to see over time, like, hey, maybe it's okay, to do this. And even within my family, like even my mother, although I don't know. When I brought it up to her one time, it was after like several years. I said, hey, why don't you come with me? And she was like, well, I might just do it. So at least that was a start. But I've seen other people as well. Like again, I've had contact with people over the years, whether it was through like my old blog or sharing information online, because I just really wanted other people to know, you can travel if that's what they want to do. Not only travel, which is why I call myself the border breaking specialist, is that whatever it is that you want to do in life, you can do it. The only one holding you back is yourself. And because even those people, like I said, if I make a choice influenced by someone else or what other people, think because they don't like this or whatever, I still am responsible, like, for my choice. So I even think, like, even when people are like, well, no, because of this person held me back, or because this person I didn't do this. Nope. At the end of the day, you're still responsible for your choices. And so as I did what I did going abroad, there are people who I had contact with who I was able to consult before I started my business, and they've gone to places like Japan, Russia, places I haven't been. And some have gone to the places where I've been, like Saudi Arabia, and they had, good experiences. Except for two, where I advised them not to do something, but and they went against that. But there are so many more other people that I didn't know that impacted, like, over the years. But they may mention me somewhere else, like come out and say, like, I had one young lady. She made a post online where she shared something that I had shared, and she said, this was the lady, she said, who inspired me to start traveling 6 years ago. And I don't remember talking to her, but now 6 years, sometimes you don't know, so it's not all about what we see. So I didn't see that I inspired her to do that. But 6 years later, then she was mentioning that, or like when I met someone finally in person, of all the people that I had helped, over time. Because again, I just genuinely wanted people to know about this. Hey, if you want to do this, you can, or whatever it is you want to do. Don't let fear stop you. And I met one of the people I communicated with online while in China, and we were at a party, and didn't know that this was the person, but someone at the party said, hey, let's introduce ourselves. We'll go around, say your names, where you're from. And then when it got to me and I said my name, where I was from, the person was like, oh my goodness, that's her. That's who I was telling you about, who helped me. The reason why I was, started going abroad, right there in China. I was like, whoa. So I think that's how I'm able to do what I do, because I see, and again, like starting back from years before, even as a child, when I do the things that I want to do, I was able to see like somewhat some of the fruit, but the fruit of what we all do, we'll never see the entire picture, or how many people we impact by being true to ourselves and doing the things that we want to, and not living in fear. So that's something, when I decided I was going to go last year, same old. Like I said, some people still are kind of like, like, I wouldn't do that, whether it's from church or somewhere else, because again, people's fears. But I learned not to listen to that, because I thought about, after all the experiences, I think about everything that's happened in my life and think, wow, I wouldn't have achieved or seen any of this if I had listened to what other people said, or, their fears. So that's something, as to how I was able to, start back again, traveling like last year, because I know.
What are some of your self care practices?
For self-care, I think it probably doesn't take much for me. Like, um, I do love baths. Oh my goodness, I love baths. So when I was actually teaching abroad, when I went to Korea, that was the first time I didn't have a bathtub in my life. I was like, whoa, they don't have bathtubs. And then in Saudi Arabia, except for this third place. Yeah, I think it was the third place where, actually the second and the third place where I was, they had bathtubs, but the third place was more comfortable because we didn't have to share like the bathroom in that place. So definitely taking baths, but since I've been abroad this time, no bathtub for me. So, but I guess like as the major part of the self care would be, again, like my faith with God, prayer, um, reading, taking time to, um, think about what I'm reading, having my communication with God, and then also this time I'm traveling a little bit different than I was, because before I was doing it as a teacher. So I was actually teaching in different countries. And this time, because I started my business before I left, I'm able to work remotely. So I'm not teaching like any schools or anything like that. I just mainly do my work online. So I'm able to be more flexible with my schedule and kind of decide things as I want to. So maybe there's, a day or time and I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm just tired. I need some rest. So I, take that time off. Um, and so yeah, just being able to take the time, knowing that I can kind of dictate my schedule how I want to, again, which may not be what other people like, because they want you to fall in line with what everybody else is doing, and I'm like, well, I don't have to do that. So the self care will be making my own decisions when it comes to like my time, things like that. So I spend a lot of time with myself and relaxing, and realize I don't have to overdo things or do what everybody else wants me to do either. Um, so yeah, just taking time for myself, my faith in God, minus my bathtub this time, but
Yeah, they don't really do bathtubs in Asia like that.
no, they don't. But I found out after I went to Peru, which was the third country that I taught in. Someone had told me about portable bathrooms, and I'm not bathrooms, but bathtubs, and I never knew anything about that. And they actually told me about plastic one. So I was like, oh my goodness, I could have like a plastic. I'm gonna get one of these. And then when I was searching online, then I saw that they had, all kinds. And when I went to China the first time, that's when after I had been in Peru, and I was bent on I'm gonna get a bathtub. And the people at the school, or in my particular program, just couldn't fathom that. They were like, what do you mean? And somebody, like, they were making jokes like, oh, you mean like for a baby? And I'm like, okay, whatever. But I was bent on ordering one offline, which someone was trying to help me.
Hmm.
And one day, the principal who wanted to improve his English, whenever he would see me in the cafeteria, he would come over to try to like talk with me briefly. So he would ask the lady who was helping me out with things like, how did I like the apartment I was in? Because apparently he had stayed in that apartment, on campus apartment, and wanted to know if I liked it. I don't know if they would have changed it if I didn't. But he would ask her about how was I doing and things like that. So she had told him that I was looking for a bathtub, and so as he was listening to her, he told her to tell me to stop looking. He was going to have someone to take me out to find what she said was a wooden barrel. And I was like, okay, a wooden barrel. Okay. And I imagine myself seeing a barrel. Okay, I guess I could step up into a barrel. At least I'll be submerged in the water. Um, but when they took me to actually look for it, I saw what I never saw before. And we went to this shop, and they had the most amazing bathtubs made out of wood. These things, some of them were like so fancy. They had smaller ones, they had larger ones, they had little seats that go inside of them that were adjustable. And basically, they told me I could pick what I wanted because that's what he said. He was sending me out. So the school paid for it. And I got a bathtub, a nice bathtub with a little adjustable seat in it. So after that, I was like, hey, yeah, I can get a bathtub. I wish they had these wooden bathtubs like around in other places. But the second when I went to Shanghai, I was also bent on getting another bathtub. I purchased it on my own though, but someone helped me to find it like online. I got like a little smaller one, but it was so nice to like have that.
Um, would you say that specifically, it seems like prayer is a part of your life. So is that the thing that keeps you grounded, or is there something else that keeps you grounded?
Yeah, my relationship with God definitely from when I was little, and of course like over time as I grew older, I developed more, through experience, reading, and again, yeah, just like the person. So I would say my relationship with God and my faith comes. A lot of it comes from what I've seen happen. When you have faith, you don't know what's going to actually take place, but it's like I know what God can do, or I know what God has said to me. Like when I was going to Atlanta, it was totally not my idea to go there nor to teach. Um, because actually, when I was little, when I was younger, it was my dream to be a teacher until third grade. And I used to practice being a teacher. And I actually made my sister and my cousins and whoever else, my friends, you're going to be my students. And if I didn't have anybody to make me my students, I resorted to my dolls and stuffed animals. Okay. So I really wanted to be a teacher when I was little until third grade. And my third grade teacher, who had also had my brother before me, she totally loved me and adored me, and I the same for her because I love to work, and again like do my best on everything, and plus I was quiet. uh, so I think teachers like that. I really only speak when I feel like I have something to say, like normally, unless people are like maybe asking things. But outside of that, I may not say may not say too much unless I feel like it's something important that I need to say. So in third grade, my teacher, when she again like thinking she totally loves me and everything, and when she asked us what we want to be when we grew up, when I stood up and said what I said, knowing she loves me and the other kids had gone, and I said, I want to be a teacher, that all of a sudden her demeanor and everything changed and her voice changed too. She said, no, don't be a teacher. And that just like shocked me so much. I'm like, I'm the only one in the class. And I didn't understand why right then. But then she prefaced that by saying, she said, no, she said, teacher, she said, we don't get paid enough. We have too much work to do. And she kind of went off on a list. But then after she said that as to why I shouldn't be, she said, you can be anything you want to be. She said, you can be a doctor, you can be a lawyer, you can be, scientist, all kinds of things she started naming off. And because I loved and respected her, I put being a teacher, which was one of my dreams, totally out of my mind. I didn't think about it like anymore. I immediately went to, okay, well, what am I going to be? and but throughout time, over time, even up until before I actually decided to go be a teacher, even when I was in graduate school, I was going to be a clinical psychologist. Okay, um, and work in the education system though, to make changes to the environment. People would like tell me, hey, you make a great teacher, and people would bring it up to me. Even people I didn't know, professors like in my undergrad, and I would be like, what are you talking about? I'm not going to be a teacher. Like, so when it came to me, I was actually working in the mental health field back home, and it was like, okay, be a teacher, go to Atlanta. I was like, okay. So that was like kind of like out of the blue. After all those years, I hadn't, thought about it. And although people would bring it up, you would make a great teacher, do this. For me to go do that, that was totally out of like what I was thinking, because I had put it out of my mind that I was not going to be a teacher. But I was thinking, what can I do in the education environment? Like in high school, when I decided what I want to do, that I want to go into psychology, and it was for the school environment as to why I wanted to go go into psychology, and then decided clinical psychology. So, but then that changed. So, um, yes, it was my faith, which is why I brought that up. My faith in God, and saying, what happens again, despite what people say, all the things that I've seen happen, like in my life. I trust that. And a funny thing is that, again, like I told you before, I went abroad like the first time, and then there's just some people who are always like negative. Like I said, I have one grandma. One of my grandmothers she's been supportive of everything, and some people were mad at her. Like, it's like, what do you mean they were mad? They didn't say anything to me. Like, they're mad. You're the one encouraged to this. So, uh, some people think it's like so totally dangerous. One of my other grandmothers, on the opposite, she thought I was gonna be killed. Okay, like, so there was some people who thought that. So when I was leaving the U.S. the first time, she was the one that thought I was gonna be killed, and also other people, which is kind of odd to me, or that, because people I know in the church, it seems like, for me being a Christian, and again, like I've learned through my faith and probably through experience, it seems that there are like way more people, at least in my experience, when I've done some of the things that I wanted to, that are more fearful than some of the people I know on the outside who are not. Um, and try to keep you from doing things. And I'm like, if I'm going abroad, and how do you expect these things to happen? Like in the Bible, it clearly says that you go into all the world and preach the gospel. I mean, I was going teaching, but the fact that they're saying, don't do it, and thinking I'm going to be killed, like, do you think all the world is America? So, yes, one of my grandmothers thought I was going to be killed before when I left. And some things just don't change after a couple or a few years later. After I had experience, I wasn't killed, in apparently, in Korea that first year, and I've been to other places, Saudi Arabia, been in Israel, and that's another little story there, because I was in Saudi. And again, there are other people when you meet when you're abroad, which is, I want people to know, like the people I consult, make sure you know your goals before you go. And those who I work with, that's one of the things that we touch on. Make sure you know your goals. Those things are clear, because even when you go abroad, people are people all around the world. So there are going to be people there who are going to try to also box you into what they think you should be or you should be doing. And unless you have your goals like set, it's easy for you to box yourself in once you're abroad too. And I say box yourself in because even though, again, like people may say things or project fears or things on you, at the end of the day, you're still responsible for your choice that you make. And I mean, I hear people all the time are like, because of so and so, this I never did this, and because of this, blah 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 blah. It's like basically your fear is what's what kept you from doing what you want to, and your desire for being comfortable. So you're comfortable because you know what's gonna happen, whether you're on that job, for instance, like being an entrepreneur. I'm glad I did it. I mean, there are people who skeptical before, but I'm glad that I just went ahead and did it, especially before some people in the church knew. Like somebody found out after the fact that I had left my job and started my business. I'm glad it was after the fact, but they still were very negative after. Like, what? You didn't? If you had, are you sure that this is God? And like, you know what? Sometimes, at least from what I've read in the Bible, God didn't tell everything for people to do. Sometimes He tells you what to do. Other times it's because He's already blessed you and equipped you to do something. So He doesn't have to tell you every single move that you make. Although I know some people they're like, God told me what to wear today and what color. And I mean, that's them. Maybe He did. I don't know. But there's some things He just blessed you and equipped you with when you have skills and abilities and things like that. And you can go and do something. There's some that have faith to know that I believe God is going to help me, to do this thing. So, yeah, I'm kind of, again, yeah, it's my faith in God. And if I didn't start my business, it's a, I don't know if I should say this, but um, and maybe I won't say it. Uh, but I've seen again, like people, even if you make a choice based on fear, it doesn't mean that you're going to be happy. Um, the majority of people that I've met, um, whether it's when I was back in the USA, since I've been abroad, online, since I started teaching online, again, I was just kind of like, I'm just gonna, teach English online, and it turned into so much more than that. Like I had no idea I would be helping people for things like people being suicidal, or people deciding that they made up in their minds they're going to leave their families, their wife and their children, or things like that. Um, or someone dealing with bullying and all kinds of things. I had no idea. Um, that will happen. But I've realized over time, again, I know people are people, but that a lot of people are just living life in fear, and they're not doing the things that they really want to do. Again, they box themselves in because of what they think, or what other people have said to them that influence their decision. But at the end of the day, they're still responsible. I believe for their decisions. So I've seen what I've done that other people may have been against or not supportive of, or like, why are you doing this? And I know that, hey, I'm happy. I'm enjoying things, but this person is trying to tell me this. And I actually told this to someone one day. They told me, they said, why don't you get up like us, wake up in the morning and go about a regular day like everybody else? And I just said to them, I said, are you happy? And they knew that they weren't. So I said, okay, I do what I want to do because I'm happy with it. But you're trying to get me to fit what you want me to fit, saying, why don't I do this like everybody else? And everybody else who's doing this whole routine that apparently society said, which society is made up of people. So the people decided to go that way. You're not happy. So why would I do that? To fit in with everybody else and be unhappy.
You said something that I found interesting, that you were told to take God with you where you went. And it seemed like a fearful thing someone had said. And so your response was that you don't have to take God with you because He's everywhere you go.
Yes. Yes, that is so very, very true. I didn't tell this to the person because it probably would have seemed like kind of disrespectful at the time. And I've changed a lot, like over time, whether it's from being abroad and the other things that I've done, like I said, the experiences before, like even in the USA, all that prepared me before I even went abroad and did things that I did. But when I thought about it, like if you actually read the Bible, like how could you say you take God with you when God is basically tells us God is everywhere? God created everything, therefore everything is nothing can exist without God. So, and even when I went abroad to Korea, something that I never thought once I got there again, like having the majority of people saying negative things to me, and this was also people in the church. Someone tried to guilt me, like in the church, and these were people that I felt that I volunteered with at the church that I had been going to, and I believe they cared about me. But again, the fear. So I have to remove that. And when I think about people, I'm thinking, okay, why are they saying what they're saying? And kind of separate that from the person, so you don't necessarily. Sometimes you do got to throw the baby away with the bathwater, but not all the time. There's some that you just got to throw them away, but but some you don't have to. And so they tried to actually guilt me, like for my decision. They were like, well, what if you go abroad and you get sick and you're in the hospital and none of your family can reach you, and why would you put them through that and all this kind of stuff? And I just kind of had to separate those things, and I listened like, okay, I know what I'm gonna do. But yes, I believe that God is everywhere, and He created all of us. And the people in Pakistan, He loves them too. The people over here in Yugoslavia, the Ukraine, as well as in Nigeria. He loves us all, and if he created the world, um, why would there be a part that he would say we can't go to? He created it. Um, so that's kind of when I hear people saying those things. First of all, I'm thinking they hadn't read the whole Bible. First of all, or if they had, they didn't really take it into account. They need to read it again. Um, but also, when I went to Korea, like I said, something that I didn't expect, and going back to what the person said to me to take God with me, I was like, what do you mean, put him in my pocket? Like, but when I got to Korea, something I didn't know was that Korea had the largest church in the world, which is Yoido. Yoido Full Gospel Church, and I didn't find that out until I got there, and I was like, "Whoa!" And here's someone telling me to take God with me when Korea has the largest church in the world, and there are so many churches there. Like, I don't know if it was something I read while I was there that they had more churches. In America, it's like they're like a church on almost every corner. I believe they said per whatever measurement that they were using, that there were actually more
And you
in Korea.
you also found out that they send missionaries from South Korea to America.
Yes, I was so like surprised when I was sitting in church that day and they said we have these people. I think they want to bless them, or they were sending them off, and then they said they were they were sending them to America. I was like, whoa, like so people outside of America was like, they need Jesus. They need God. So I was like, whoa. Because growing up in America, again, and I think this is where people's mindset comes from when they're like, even though I was like, there are some, Christian, then there are people that are not Christian, but even just within the Christian community of those people that I know that were like against me going, or say things like, are you sure about, all this? And I'm like, didn't they say go you into all the world, preach the gospel? So how y'all gonna do this unless they think for them? And this is what I found from the beginning when I left America, even up until like when I left, the last time into that. Some people, I believe, they think the whole world, and they think the safest thing and the only place where people gonna be saved is America. And um, yes, so when it comes to, and I think you, I think you have to reel me back in, uh, with the question.
I was also wondering about how you like to explore. So when you get to a new place, how do you learn about your new place that you're in?
Yes. So it just kind of happens. I prefer things to just kind of happen naturally. Instead of like, there have been times where I've gone on like tours or things like that, but that's like a small amount of the time that I've been abroad. Most of the time I just like it to happen naturally. So whatever it is that I'm doing, I just live life as it is, and things just kind of happen as I go. I don't like necessarily like forcing things, or let's have this experience, or like this. I just go about life. And so I found that as I go about life and doing some of the things that I do, again, they may not necessarily be things that other people want to do or that they like. I've been able to learn a lot about the places where I've been, the people there, the culture, and things like that, even though some other people might not agree or think like you could. Because when I went abroad, again, the first thing, it was my dream to travel the world. Then I said that I wanted to see what life was like outside of the U.S. I wanted to see it for myself, what it was like, the culture, the people, the food, and things like that. So when I travel, it may be a little bit different from other people. So I'm not, when I went out, I wasn't looking for America. In the places where I went. And if things were different, sometimes I may have had to adjust my mindset to something, like, especially in the beginning, because things were different. But I'm like, wait a minute, that's what I was looking for. Like when I went to Korea, and I realized that they eat a lot of rice, and at the school I was eating lunch, so there was a lot of rice, and they make so many things: rice cakes, rice wine, rice, all kinds of things. And the rice that they had was sticky. And I wasn't really used to that. So one day when I was shopping, I was going through the rice aisle, and they had so many options. But then I asked my co-teacher, who is now my friend. I was trying to ask her like about the rice, because I didn't know which one. I said, I'm looking for the rice that's, like, she was like, what do you mean? Here's the rice. And I'm like, no, I'm kind of looking for the one, like when you take the fork and you like fluff it, it moves. It's just like separate pieces. So I was basically looking for what I was used to back at home. And so she figured out what I was saying. She said, oh, she said, I know, I know. She said, Taiwanda? She said, you want the American rice? You go to America. I was like, at first I was like, whoa, it kind of threw me back. And I was like, what? Like, in my mind, I didn't say anything out loud, but in my mind, it threw me back. But then as it threw me back, I thought to myself, I said, you know what? She's right. I want American rice. Go to America. I came to Korea, and they eat mostly sticky rice. So after she said that, I went ahead and I bought the rice that they use, which was, I think, all the rice on the entire aisle. And I decided to start using the rice cooker at home. And I actually grew to like the rice in Korea so much to when I went to China. I thought China was going to be the same as Korea, like a lot of things. And I found out China is basically totally opposite of Korea. Um, yeah, I was trying to eat rice there, and it actually is the kind of rice that I've been looking for at home, where it falls off. And I'm like, how do you eat this with chopsticks? Really? Why do you have chopsticks for this?
Are there any song lyrics or poems that speak to you these days?
Um, these days, I wouldn't know. I think just there probably are like quite a few for different situations. I know before I left the USA, and one that's still with me, like one of my favorite is A Whole New World. And I like the version sang by Peabo, Bryson, and I think it's Regina, Belle. But that's the song that I thought of when I was leaving before I left the USA the first time, and I started my blog, which was, I didn't think about doing in the beginning before I left, but one of my cousins was like, "Hey, why don't you start a blog? Like, you can share everything there." So, you know what? Maybe I will. So I started it, and that was the song that I chose, because it was like, I'm going into a whole new world, and I still think about that. I still love that song. Um, but then, yeah, there are like so many others, because I think I put a post like online one day about which I think like song describes, I guess, your experience like abroad or something like that. And Um, what song did I choose? Never mind, that wasn't a song. That was a TV show. But there was one with a song. I do remember. I can't think of the song though. So it was something else more modern. Um, but I can't think of it. Um, yeah, I'm pretty sure there are many. There are many out there. No
Okay.
poem though
No
that
poems.
I can think of.
Okay. How would you say, or would you say that being a black woman has impacted how you've been able to travel?
Um, you know what? Something that I think, although it can be viewed as negative, like depending on where you are and depending on the person, their perspective. Now that I think of it, is that although a lot of people may have experienced, especially in East Asia, of being like stared at and is very uncomfortable and things like that. One of the things I realized over time, that even though that happens because you're different, it's basically like the whole thing of an alien dropped out of the sky thing. um I'm readily identifiable. There's no, well, I'll take that back, because there have been instances where people, because they weren't expecting that, and for some reason, I don't know why, but most places I go, sometimes it seems like, I don't know, I assimilate. People think I'm from there. It's like, seriously? um, but I think the fact that you are so identifiable, like whether it was in Korea and even in Saudi Arabia, although they have people like me, my hair kind of set me apart. Even though sometimes I would wear the hijab, like over it, it was like the afro puff, like the bump. Like someone told me, they was like, "Oh, what's that?" They thought it was something I put like on my head because I had the hijab on, and I was like, "No, it's my hair." There were times where I would, some beautiful things, that pieces that they had that were like big that you could put up there. I would do that if I wore a ponytail. But then they told me that that is seen as like a status symbol for women, like when men are looking for their wife or something like there, it denotes that they're like supposed to be like rich or something. So I was like, oh, okay. uh, and a lot of them said that they desired that, so that's getting me about it, because they would actually buy things to make like kind of like a bump in the top of their head when they put on the hijab.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think being different and identifiable by people because you stand out, that's afforded me to be able to do the thing that I wanted to. Like I said, I want to see what life is like, find out the culture and the people. So people have been like very welcoming, and I've been able to get, close to them. Not that necessarily into like all the time, but they kind of bring me in and make me a part of things. Sometimes where it's like, I'm like, you know what? Okay, I'm going to do this. But I've been able to, see into like people's worlds, where they've invited me into their homes. They shared about customs or gone, places with them, and I've learned a lot about their culture, like through them, through observance and them telling me. And I think that's because I do stand out. So um, I don't necessarily look the same. Although some people do think this seriously. It shocked me in Korea when some people thought I was Korean. It's like one older man, like on the subway, he told my co-teacher he wanted to know where I was from, and she told me that he thought I was a famous Korean singer. And that's when I started to realize, oh, there are people in places that look like me. Like most people do look this certain way, but there are people who have darker skin or certain features like what we have. So I think being a black woman that's been able to allow me to kind of infiltrate things a little more, because people are very curious, and things like that. And again, like I said, some people may see that as a disadvantage, but I've seen how it's always worked out for me. I've been fed quite a bit in places too. Oh my goodness, when
I
I look at
love
my
to eat,
pictures, it's like,
so
yes, I do. I can do without eating because I found over the years, and it was due to people feeding me throughout my travels. When I went back to the USA the last time and got my place, and I started cooking, I realized I no longer enjoy cooking. And I think it was
cooking is
because
different from eating, though.
well, like because I don't enjoy cooking, that means I'm not gonna cook all the time. So I can, yeah, just say I can go without eating. But it's fasting and all that too is like a part of like my faith as well, um, which is something that I was introduced to back in the U.S. like first, and the first time it was kind of like a shock. But but yeah. But yeah, I do like to eat more so if someone else is preparing it. Um,
And how can the listeners support your work?
yes, so they can go to my website, which is taiwandabasin.com, and they can sign up for my newsletter there, which I don't. So don't worry about me sending, overloading you with anything because I send send it out every now and then when I have something that I believe is really, really, really good to share, or when I have time. So you can find me on Taiwan at taiwandabasin.com, as well as follow me. The places where I share the most, because I don't have to maybe like write as much or anything. You can follow me on Instagram, Facebook. I'll say those are the major ones at Taiwanda Basin. So especially on Facebook, you want to make sure you follow at Taiwanda Basin for my business page where I'm usually sharing everything related to like what I do, my travel experiences, and things like that. And then there are other places, social media, you can find me as well, such as Firework. What else? LinkedIn, those places. But I would say like the main ones would be Facebook and Instagram, as well as my website.
You tend to share quite a few opportunities on. I've mostly saw it on your Instagram. So if folks are following you and you post that, they'll be able to get the little job they're looking for or whatever opportunity you're posting.
Yes,
I'm sure
yes,
your
and I
followers
share.
appreciate that.
Yes, yes, I do share some things because I was doing recruiting at one point. Then I kind of stopped doing that. I might be going back into someone contacted me about assisting them, and then other people said, "Hey, if you send referrals to us," so I may go back into that. But I realize that takes a lot of time. But I do also share opportunities that others have, and I know some people who are actually like recruiting for places like China or Thailand, that I can share as well.
Okay. So I will put those links in the show notes. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate you sharing. It was like a walk of faith, essentially your journey in faith, believing in yourself and finding your way through, and what has helped you to stay that, because 10 years is a long time, even if you've been back, back home. So thank you. I really, really appreciate you sharing all of that with the good folks for the podcast.
You're very, very welcome. I thank you again, like for having me here to share my experience as well. And I hope that it does inspire some people to know that whatever it is that they want to do, they can do it, and don't hold back. We only get one life, so.
That we know of. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, here on this earth is one time, but I do believe after this earth, and I'm so looking forward to that one. So,
Well, don't go too quick. That's all I'm saying. Um, yes, ma'am. Well, you have yourself a gorgeous evening, and thanks again for taking the time to chat with us today.
thank you so much, and you have a good evening as well.
Thank you.
You're
Bye.
welcome. Bye.
Hey. Boom, ba, da, 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 doom. da 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 doom. Ba-doom. Ba-doom. Ah,